Hello and welcome to Master Your Life with Kate McKay, a show exclusively dedicated to uncovering the path to excellence through powerful stories of grit and determination. I'm Kate McKay and welcome to the show. Today, I'm really excited to introduce David Rogowsky. Welcome, David.
Hi, Kate. Thank you for having me.
I'm super psyched you're here. So just a quick bio about David, and then we're going to get right on into it. So David is a Bitcoin lover and a promoter of freedom and peace. David has a background in finance and currently is the COO of Tech 387, a development sourcing company. Dave has a 12-year-old son, loves to exercise. He's a fit dude and loves to eat good food and enjoys learning all things about Bitcoin. So, David, welcome to the show.
So great to be here, Kate. I love talking to you, and I'm super excited.
So this show,
to be here.
Yeah, I'm super psyched. So we're the whole journey through Master Your Life is really talking about the journey to excellence, right? And we all have a story. So what has been your journey to success for you, David? And oftentimes I'd like to start off with the question, tell me a little bit about maybe your favorite failure or a place that in time that was very pivotal for you on your path to success.
So for me, it really, I'm almost 52 years old at this point, and I really had no idea. I had no North Star, no mission in life. I had various interests, sort of a jack of all trades, master of none. And I recently started getting involved with things going on in the world. I was never very political, but I started to, see some problems in the world and started to want to learn more about them and got more concerned about what's going on. And then, so through that, I eventually stumbled on to, potential solutions could there be, right? And so eventually I watched some videos on macroeconomics and Bitcoin, and it was like an awakening. This is it. This is the answer. This is our way to kind of solve a lot of the world's problems. And it completely changed my life forever. This was just, I don't know, about less than a year ago. I mean, I literally just had this awakening, and now my whole life mission is to spread the word of Bitcoin to as many people as possible and to try to help create a world that's peaceful and full of freedom.
How great does that sound? Well, I think it's you're such an interesting dichotomy because your energy in general is pretty like chill energy vibe. And yet you have this deep knowledge around finance and then this newfound, really very deep and knowledgeable passion about Bitcoin. I mean, it's something that you dig into and learn, are actively learning and teaching on the subject, which is fantastic. But what do you think ignited you so much about it? I mean, what was the big aha for you? Because it was almost like an epiphany for you.
It was, and it was sort of a series of events that kind of led to that aha moment. And, again, it started out, like I said, growing up and even throughout my adulthood, I was not political at all. I don't even remember I never voted. I didn't care. I was in my own little world. And then as I started to have my own life challenges and I saw people around me start to have challenges, I started watching the news and started to see all these problems. And so, obviously, you're watching the mainstream media, and again, I'm not trying to say whether I'm left or right, but what I heard from the media was the people that were calling out the problems were the people on the left, and the problems made sense to me. I was like, yeah, these are real problems, and so their solutions were just more regulation and more control, more government control. And I thought, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess that would work. They definitely have the right problems. And then just through that process, started watching different YouTube channels of different people, and several different people started to pop up in my YouTube feed that started talking about macroeconomics and Austrian economics and how free markets can really solve these issues. And then in parallel with that, all of us, last few years, we could see, Bitcoin just exploded in value and all these other cryptocurrencies. And I first got interested in Bitcoin just through seeing the incredible return that it had achieved in several years. So that was sort of, I kind of got into it just the same way that everyone else did. It was just more out of, greed and like, wow, maybe I can jump on this train. And then, so it's sort of two parallel tracks. It was like this Bitcoin cryptocurrency world is just going crazy for some reason. And I'm seeing more and more problems in the world, and maybe there's some different solutions. And so eventually I found out there was a book called Creature from Jekyll Island. And that is about the history of the US Federal Reserve. And it's basically a strong argument about why the central banking system is entirely corrupt. And like when I read that, it just horrified me. I couldn't believe it, that this was the system that we live in, that the world lives in, and all the dangers that are inherent with it. And then I started to realize that that Bitcoin actually is the counter to the central banks. And once I discovered that, I was just watching it was a YouTube video one day, and I realized, oh wow, so Bitcoin actually solves this. And then that's when it all hit me, like, this is something big. This is like kind of like discovering fire. I mean, this is like a major, thing in human history. So
why do you think people don't understand it? Like, where do you think the breakdown is? Because I think that so much of the conversations are this left or right conversation, through COVID and everything out. And that polarization has been so intense. And I've always stepped back and been like, wow, there is something so much bigger than this. And so where is the confusion? Where are you seeing that confusion?
I think that's a great point, Kate. I think all of us want the same things. We just want to, live in peace, and we want everyone to get along, and we want to have a family and be comfortable. We all want the same thing, and we're all calling out the same problems. And so it's a great question. Like, why is this such this, divide in the country? And I really truly believe that it comes down to a lack of understanding of money, of what it really is. I have a background in finance, a master's degree in finance, several certifications in finance. Most of my career was in finance. And I can tell you that I absolutely had no idea what money was. I had to study it. I just started learning in the last 12 months. And so when I say that people don't understand money, that's not me calling people stupid. It's not taught in schools. It's not something that people generally think about. It's also kind of culturally frowned upon to speak about it. And so, but it's critical. It's, such an important part of all of our lives. And I think most people don't understand how money works. And then once you understand how it works, then you can kind of reverse engineer and see how a certain type of monetary system can create equal opportunity in the world and freedom in the world, which then in turn creates more innovation and more capital investment and more technology development and a flourishing society. And so you can kind of put the pieces together, but the building block is money.
Is money.
That's my view.
It's so cool. And we will be having, for any of you listening, we will be doing a second interview, David and I, because we co-authored a piece, actually is from a section of David's book. And so we're going to be really digging into the components of money. This is really great information. I'm really excited about that. And the book you did mention was The Creature from Jekyll and Hyde by Edward Griffith. And we will be putting that in the show notes, but thank you for that. So when we're looking at that pivotal place between problem and solution, right? So much of whether we're talking about personal or professional development, really that is the work, is like the problem is this and the solution is this. But where do you think, maybe from your own personal experience, do you feel like people get maybe overwhelmed or shut down? And because I know you have an approach, obviously, to health and wellness. And what has been your system for clarification and excellence in your own life?
Well, I know when I feel overwhelmed, I usually just freeze up. I can't think. I can't do anything. Everything just stops. And I'll go through a period of this massive anxiety, and then once that passes, I just try to calm myself, and then just stop what I'm doing, and just literally take out a piece of paper and write down, okay, what are my problems? What are all these emergencies? What are all these fires that I'm dealing with right now? Let's get them all on paper. And then that way I can visualize it, I can see it. And then I will look at them and I'll try to figure out which ones are the highest priority, which ones are the most time critical or the most important. And I'll try to just create sort of an ordered list in priority, and then I'll try to figure out a little roadmap or plan of how to, start tackling these issues one at a time, and try to figure out, is this something that's going to take me an hour or a day or a week or a month, and then just sort of lay it out. If it is a set of issues where it's longer term, where it's not just a quick 1 hour thing, I will try to make sure that that I just in general have optimal energy during the day so I can be as productive as possible. So that's just, I try to eat right, exercise consistently, go to bed at the exact same time every night, get a proper night's sleep, meditation. And, I do try my best to, really slot out times in my schedule for those things and try to be disciplined about them as much as I can.
Interested in learning more about a mastermind with Kate McKay? Reach out to us on our website at kate-mckay.com.
Yeah, you really do. So what's your definition? Because this is an important piece of productivity. And I think that as a high performance coach, oftentimes the place to start when people are overwhelmed is they don't have clarity in regards to what it is they want. And, whether we're talking about ourself, our own image and what we really want, how do we want to define our relationships? And number 3 is, what are our growth goals? Like, what are we envisioning for ourselves? And productivity isn't just checking off a list. I'm interested in hearing about your prioritization. And first of all, what is your definition of prioritization? And how do you assess that when you create that list?
So yeah, it's a great question. There's obviously it's very subjective, and it does depend on, what your goals in life are, what your mission is. And so, if you don't, that's the first step. Like, if you're not really sure, and most people don't really know what their life mission is or their life passion. And, for those people, it's a little harder because you have to just do some trial and error and figure out what it is that's important to you. But once you do have a passion and a goal, and what you want to do, it's super critical to try to allocate a certain part of your time every day towards achieving that goal. Mm-hmm. And so, and especially high focus time, high energy time. And so, depending on the type of person that you are, if you're like an early morning person, then you probably want to, allocate an hour. Just as soon as I wake up, I'm going to jump on the computer and I'm going to do this, whatever high value work before I even start my day, because I'm high energy and I'm just going to, in quiet. Or if you're just a regular person, just maybe it's the late morning or the early afternoon where you have a lot of energy, where you just block off, 90 minutes of your time and to the extent that you can. I mean, look, I understand people are employees and they have obligations, right? But to the extent that you can, not block any meetings or calls and just, try to focus on something high value. It's very easy to get sidetracked answering emails, responding to whatever fire it is of the day that's happening. Even social media now is on a whole new level of distraction. And so it's really just making a conscious effort to set it aside and start with 10 minutes a day. If if you're really overwhelmed, if you can't do an hour and a half, everyone has challenging lives. So just say, all right, I'm going to just take 10 minutes at night or whenever it is. And I'm going to work on my high value thing in my life that I want to accomplish, my long-term goal, whatever it is.
I like how you said, when you were describing your list and then looking at them and deciding, well, how long is that going to take? Right. So just really ascertaining from all the projects, a realistic number on how long that's going to take. So we're not just looking at a list of to-dos, but we're looking at our to-dos as prioritized as projects, which I think is a tricky thing for a lot of people, right? And I think that if you're really clear on the whys, then it's going to make that task, that list of tasks, a lot easier to discern. I have a follow-up question in regards to, obviously, to your system. And I'm actually going to back into it by talking about the idea and the concept of the warrior. I mean, as you know, I wrote a book called Claim Your Inner Warrior, and it's especially geared towards men. And one of the pieces about personal development and professional development is there's a direct correlation, right? So in the old days, we could be at a level 10 in our profession and be a 2 in our personal development. And we could still be really successful. But now there's a little bit more of the law of averages, because if we're not finding the average between our personal development, our professional development, we're not going to be able to excel at the high level that we would choose to. What would be maybe a challenge that you've had in your own personal development and how it's related maybe to professional development or not? And yeah, I guess I'll just start there, coming from the warrior status of your own personal growth.
Yeah, just going back to my quick summary of myself is, I, again, was always a jack of all trades, master of none. And so therefore, I never really mastered anything in my life before. It was only recently where I had this newfound passion for Bitcoin. And I'm going through that challenge now, trying to master Bitcoin. And so I know that a lot of times, when you talk about mastery, it's repetition. They say if you do something 10,000 times, you'll become a master at it. But roadblocks along the way that, just smaller roadblocks that I've encountered in the past that I'm sure will hit me as I try to go down this path with Bitcoin are, first of all, if you lose your passion, if you have a lack of passion, it's sometimes hard to drive forward. Or if you get burned out or you're tired, right? That's always a challenge. And other times there might be a fear. There might be something involved that's you have to overcome a fear in order to take the next step in your reaching your dream. And so I think those are some of the typical hurdles that people face when they're trying to reach their professional apex.
Right. And so
or whatever.
Personally, like if you're looking at fear, and one of the things that we talk about in high performance is this whole concept of courage, and courage really being more about speaking your truth, but defining the roadblock, which is fear. So fear can look all kinds of ways, right? And we talk about fear as maybe, like the outcome, like I'm going to do all this work and the outcome isn't going to be worth it. Or the process pain, it's going to be too hard. Or fear of loss. Like if I do that, I'm going to lose something or someone. Did any of those resonate with you in particular as you've grown as a man in particular, that you could relay to our audience as something that you've had to overcome?
I've always had a fear of, I guess, confrontation. I've always been afraid to upset people or make them angry at me or say something stupid where I would personally get humiliated. So just sort of that whole fear of confrontation, and that, like you said, it's so important to speak your truth and to face truths, to move forward with your life and to live a full life. And so when you have a fear of confrontation, you have a tendency to shy away from the truth and to hide things, not in a manipulative way, but just in a more shy, frightening way. And you become, less influential as a person. So that's something that I've had since a younger kid, and something that, that I'm working through right now, just trying to, you're helping me. You are my life coach, by the way, for those who are listening. I am one of your clients. And you've done a lot of work with me to help me kind of get past that and to be more relaxed and not afraid to be my authentic self. I think that's
important. Do you think, like for the listeners out there, why do you think that piece is important in our evolution? Because that really is your piece. When we're talking about this in this pre-interview, your words that you want to tell to your older, younger self is never stop evolving. So evolution is very important to you. Yes?
Yes, absolutely. It's always, it's at the end of the day, it just goes back to just truth will always set you free, and truth, in anything. And that's how you grow. And so forgiving your demons in your past, and just forgiving yourself for those demons, and just trying to learn from them, and just realize that you're just a good person, and that just go out there and just be who you are and start practicing that. I think that's what would kind of help, just moving forward, but evolving. Like the universe and life is just so amazing, and you'll never, no matter how long we live, we'll never learn everything there is to learn in the world or in the universe. There's just an infinite number of things you can learn, and you can always improve. There was never been a perfect person, and there never will be. So, in my mind, evolving, learning and evolving is almost is what the definition of living. If you stop evolving, you're almost no longer living anymore. In my opinion, I don't mean that
grow
in
or
a
die.
derogatory way, but just
Well, grow or
yeah,
die, right? Because
yeah. I mean, and yeah,
living organisms are in a continual, even just basic biology, right? If we look
yeah,
at it that way, there is that piece that we always need to be evolving, because the opposite of growth is decay. Is really, it's
yeah.
nothing, it's static, right?
Yeah, in the world is, the law of physics, there's this thing called entropy where things are constantly, the natural order of things is to constantly things are always breaking down. And so you're going against nature if you're just, not trying to evolve and just re-up yourself. So anyway, I
That's
agree
the
with you
challenge, right?
100%.
No, but I love
Mhm.
that, the law of entropy. So how would you relate that law to personal development? I'm just curious.
Just to reiterate, I'm not sure if I'm answering this question appropriately or not, but it's just going back to there's always new things that you can learn and things that you can improve upon. You'll never ever be a perfect person. You'll never know all there is to know. That's the exciting thing about life to me is, I mean, I don't know, everyone has different personalities, but I love learning new things. Kind of to me is what makes waking up the next day more interesting, exciting. Like, what new adventure, that kind of like, it's like an adventure. If there's something new to learn or something new to do or some kind of new surprise, it's just what keeps life interesting to me. So that's sort of my take on it.
So agree. And you have a 12-year-old son, yes?
I do. I
Yeah.
have a
So he's,
wonderful 12-year-old
yeah.
son.
So that's part of that evolution too, is being able to see the evolution through the eyes of our child.
Oh, so true. As they grow up and watching them grow up, it's just I know everyone who has kids can relate to that. It's just such a wonderful thing.
It's kind of funny because even as a coach, I feel like that's part of my work too. And
hmm
in helping people pursue their own level of mastery is watching their ahas, and the wonder and this, in that state of awe that we can all experience in our own personal and professional evolution. It's quite beautiful. Well,
Oh, well
David,
said.
thank you so much for this time. I'm so grateful. And again, we will be back for part 2. And so stay tuned, audience, for part 2. I'm really looking forward to that.
Kate, thank you so much. Really appreciate talking to you.
Thank you. And thank you to the audience for checking in. I'm Kate McKay. And until next time, continue that path of mastery and excellence and make this day a good one.
Looking for an inspirational speaker at your next event? Please reach out to us at kate-mckay.com and to book Kate at your next event.